What's up, riders? Old man Ronin here. Welcome back to the channel. Notice the bike on the left? That's because I want to give you 10 easy steps on how to winterize and or prepare your bike for long-term storage. Stay tuned. My number one step in winterizing or long-term storage is to fill the gas tank up. I know that sounds kind of obvious. Some people believe in draining the gas completely out of them. I would never do that. Main reason is condensation. These temperature swings you get in the winter or in just regular storage will create condensation in there, which creates rust. So the number one thing you want to do is to fill your tank completely up. Now, what I like to do is I like to go to the gas station and fill it up, and then that brings us to step 2. Step number 2, add a fuel stabilizer. It'll stabilize the fuel, that way you'll have a good burn when you start the engine back up in either the spring or whenever you take it out of storage. Number 2, it's going to protect your fuel system. Modern gasolines have a lot of ethanol in them, and that ethanol has a tendency to eat plastic and destroy rubber. And unfortunately, almost every manufacturer in the world, their fuel pumps are made of, guess what, plastic and rubber. So this will actually protect that system. So what you want to do is definitely add a stabilizer. That's probably one of the most important things you can do in this whole series of things, is to add a stabilizer. Now, after you add it, run your bike at least 5 minutes to get it running through the fuel system. And what I like to do is I like to take the stabilizer with me to my gas station, top off my tank, add the correct amount. I think it's an ounce for every 2.5 gallons, so this would take about 1 3/4 ounces of stabilizer for this particular brand, and then I run it home. And that brings us to step 3. Step number 3, you just got your bike home, and what better of an opportunity is to change the oil and your filter. Why would you want to have dirty oil laying in the bottom of your engine all winter long or in long-term storage? So my recommendation is, as soon as you get back from topping your fuel off, your engine's going to be warm, which is the absolute best time to change your oil, is change the oil and filter, top it off with new oil, and you're ready for next spring or when you take it out of storage. One thing I like to do that not many people do is I like to pull the spark plug out and either use a fogging agent, or what I do is a couple drops of oil in there. Then I hit the starter, have the piston go up and down a couple times, make sure that the engine cylinder walls are coated with oil, helps protect it against rust. And it also gives me opportunity to check my spark plug, make sure the gap is proper and make sure it looks like it's in good condition. And if it's not, I replace it and I'm ready to go next year. Step number 5 is to air up your tires. If you don't know what the air pressure is before you check it, look up here on this tag or check your owner's manual. It'll say right here, both front and rear, what air pressure it should be. Then check the level, make sure it's proper, and then continue to the next. Step number 6 is to clean and maintain your chain. Now that I've pulled it off the lift and set it up on the center stand, it's the perfect opportunity to check the chain and sprockets for wear and make the necessary adjustments for the upcoming season. Refer to your owner's manual or Royal Enfield dealer for proper wear guidelines and tension adjustment. Also, spin the tire a little bit and make sure there's no hang-ups with your brake, or if it looks like it's out of line. You ready for step number 7? We're going to roll it outside and wash it. It's actually more important than what you think. So enjoy this little montage I put together while I do a voiceover. Clean your bike thoroughly to remove all dirt, mud, grime, and oil that has accumulated over the year. I wash my bikes constantly for not only self-pride, but more important, to check for any loose, worn, or shabby-looking parts that I can't really see easily. Getting your hands on the bike gives you a better feel for what the bike is supposed to feel like. It's like when all of a sudden you feel a loose bolt from rubbing it with a rag. Well, it wasn't there before, you know. It's a good way to check things out. Washing your bike is as important as any maintenance you can do. And while you're doing it, look at the brake pads, your stands, controls, lights, etc. Next, dry it thoroughly as well. You don't want ice forming in places where it can expand and break stuff like cooling fins, fittings, etc. I use this time to also apply a coat of wax if the bike has shiny pieces. Step number 8, keep your battery charged. One of the very first mods I did to my Royal Enfield Himalayan here, and I had made a video on it, was to install a battery tender. Now people say, well, you're running it all year. I put the battery tender on it all the time because you never know when you're not going to run your bike. Maybe it's bad weather for like a week or two. Maybe something comes up. You have to go to the doctor or whatever. You make sure that you have your battery tender on. That way you have it, particularly with an alarm system or a lot of electronics, will drain it down pretty quickly. I like to put the battery tender on and leave it run almost all year, but especially true in winter months or in long-term storage. And the one that I recommend is the Battery Tender Junior. This little guy here is a float charger. It's not, I hate to say charger, I mean even though it says it on the box, but it's actually just a trickle or a float. And as soon as the battery gets up to its capacity, it shuts, the charger shuts down. And that way it doesn't overcharge. If you put a regular battery charger on your battery, you'll end up boiling it out or burning it out. I use a float charger for that very reason. And it's actually maintained my batteries in all my motorcycles for years. In fact, I've had one battery last almost 10 years before it's finally died out, and I attribute it all to the battery tender. I get twice the life out of most batteries because I use this battery tender, so I'm a really big believer in float charging. Now, a few guys will say, well, I go out and I'll charge my, I'll start my motorcycle in the wintertime and let it run for 10 or 15 minutes. That'll charge it. That's exactly the opposite thing it'll do. If you go out and you start your engine, you're actually pulling a huge load off of that battery. And there's no way in 15 minutes your motor is going to charge that battery up to its optimum level. So doing that, you're actually bringing the battery down every time you do it. So that's why I say use a float or a trickle charger like the battery tender here. And like I say, I got 7 of them, so keep it on your bike and the battery life will last a lot longer. Now, I had a few people tell me, yeah, the Royal Himalayan batteries are not that good. I have not had any problem yet, but I've only had it for like 6 months, so we'll let you know as it goes on. But I do plan on changing it to a lithium battery before I go on Trans-America Trail. So there will be an upgrade there. Not because I don't like this battery, but because I want more capacity, and I want a lithium style battery, which is a little bit lighter as well too. Let's move on to step number 9. Step number 9, this one here is something that I'm not sure a lot of people do, but I do because I've had some bad things happen in the past, and it's critter prevention. And people go, what do you mean? Well, here in Ohio, in particular the last, I don't know, 15 years, we've get this overabundance of a critter called a stink bug. And they get in everything. In fact, when I put my table out to put some of my parts on here the other day, I opened the table up, it's a folding table, and I had at least 30 stink bugs drop out of it, and it's stored here in my garage. So what I do, and I'll take you along to show you, is I use this simple little plastic bag and some non-stick tape. Let me show you. Stink bugs love to get in your exhaust. They climb down in there, and I mean, you could have 20 or 30 of them in there. Now, in some of the other bikes that are closer to the ground, like my Harleys, sometimes some people have actually said they had mice. I've never had a mouse climb up in there, but I have had a tremendous number of stink bugs. So what I like to do is I like to cover my exhaust and then put some of this paint tape on it. And I'll just do a quick little wrap around there, show you what I'm talking about. But just give it a little bit of place that the stink bugs can't get in. Now, if you have an exposed air box like on a Harley, then I would cover the air box as well too. But doing simple things like this will keep those critters out from your exhaust, because they can get in there and cause all kind of issues. So that's why I put a little critter prevention. I know it's different, but that's what I do. Step number 10, to cover or not to cover. This one's kind of iffy for me. I normally do not cover my motorcycles because I'm constantly playing with them. So I'll go out and wipe them down in the wintertime anyways, make sure they're not too dusty and things of that nature. But if you do not have a place to store them, make sure that you get a cover that is both waterproof but breathable. Because the worst thing you can do is have your motorcycle having condensation created underneath. It's kind of like a tent. You don't want to have a tent that leaks water from the outside in, but you also don't want to have it so impervious to water that it can't breathe out, and all your hot breath will create moisture inside the tent, which gets you just as wet as raining. So make sure that you get a tent that's not a cheapo, it's not plastic, don't use a tarp, use a breathable cover that will enable the air or the condensation to wick out instead of close in. Now that is something that, again, it's up to you to cover or not to cover. That is the question. That's one of the reasons why I made it number 10. I don't use them very often. I have them in case I'm on the road that I can put it out over the bike to keep the rain off of it. But I make sure that they are a little bit more expensive than your cheapo $5 or tarp or things like that. That way it doesn't have condensation underneath and cause rust, because rust is an enemy of all metal equipment. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it was a garage episode and I did it for a couple reasons. Number one, I wanted to make sure I got this information out to you. A lot of people are putting their bikes away in the northern part of the country and in Europe, and I wanted to make sure if they never winterize their bike, that is an opportunity. If they don't, or if you do not know how to winterize your bike, then I suggest you contract your nearest Royal Enfield dealer or your nearest bike shop and have them do it for you, because just putting your bike in the garage is not a good idea. You could end up costing yourself thousands of dollars in repairs. Well, not on a Royal Enfield, but on Honda or something you would. Just teasing. Just teasing. I don't need to have any bad vibe going out there. But anyways, the second reason is yesterday I noticed, after unloading the lift by myself, I mean, it's 800 pounds and I got it out of my truck myself and put it up. I noticed a few squiggly lines in my left eye, and here I had torn some of the retina away from the back of my eye, and they immediately took me in and did laser surgery for like 3.5 hours. Yeah, it is what it is. So if you notice a little puffiness or a little redness, that's what happened. And I'm not allowed to ride a motorcycle for at least a week. So the next couple episodes will probably be garage episodes, but I got some parts I can put on the Royal Enfield. But today I wanted to make sure that we did the winterization on the bike, and that way, even though I didn't do it because I'm going to keep riding after I get done with this stuff, but I wanted to make sure that people knew, if they have never winterized their bike before, that this is what you do. And if you cannot do it or you choose not to do it, take the bike to your Royal Enfield dealer or any other bike shop and have them winterize it for you, because it is critically important, and you don't want to have a bunch of surprises next spring when you start the bike up and it's not running properly. Well, if you enjoyed the episode, give us a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell notification button. Make sure you share and comment. You know, I read all the comments and comment on most of the comments. Until next time, make sure you ride safe and keep her on two wheels, baby.